Hello everyone, today we will continue with assembling the AB drives. So for that I put the inserted nuts, and yeah, in here also we need one, and like I said, my print quality awful, so I will replace them later. That's why I didn't do any episode for the printed parts. Normally I'm preparing every 3D printed parts, and later on I'm starting the build, but later on I will print these parts on my Trident and I will replace them. So let's start. We will start with the idlers. We will use one M5 by 40, and we will create basically bearing stacks, which means one shim, one bearing, one upside down bearing, and another shim. This is the bearing stacks, one shim, two bearings, and another shim. So after that we will put these together like that, so it will look like that. Then we will use another M5 by 40. Yeah, this is accent part. One of them is for M5 nut and one of them for screw head. Yeah, since it's not normally this socket head should be in here, so I will quickly swap it. Now yeah, it should be like this. Then carefully remove the screw, and I will put the accent part, and I will try to place the screw again. Yes, nothing is falling, so that means it's careful. It's okay. Yes, M5 nut, and yeah, screw it, tighten it. Yeah, it will like that. Let's do the other. This part is just to align the bearing stacks together. Check if something is dropping or not. Do not over tighten these screws because the bearings should move freely, and also your part should move relatively free. The flat part, flat surface needs to look the Voron logo. Where you place the heated insert should look on the back. These are the idlers. So it's M3 by 40 and a shim for the tensioning the belt. So this screw will reach to other part. So idea is when you unscrew this, your belt, since there's a belt tension, your belt will just move this accent part and loose. And what I'm doing generally, I'm putting the accent part most down. With that I have more room to tension my belt. So when I tighten this one, it will increase the tension of the belt. That's the idea. Idlers are done. We'll do the AB part. So the AB part we will use M5 by 30. So we'll put these through here. Then the bearing stack. We need one bearing stack in here. That means one bearing stack in here and two bearing stack in here. One more. Yep. Then you will place this like that, and turn over it and take the empty space of screws. These have this where the screw is tightening, there is already a threaded part on this plastic side. Just take the empty part, don't tighten this. These bearings should move freely. We'll do the same thing for this. Take two M5x30, place at the corner, place at the third. Since there's a plastic part in here, one bearing stack in here and two bearing stack in here. While you are doing the double bearing stack, don't forget to put two shim between the bearings. Remember, shim, two bearing, shim. This is one bearing stack, shim, two bearing, shim. This is another bearing stack. So don't forget, there should be two between the double bearing. So these are the AB parts. Now we need to put. Now we will place these idler and the AB drives on the gantry. And normally manual says that to also install the stepper motor, but I will not install it before putting this gantry, because since these will clip in the rails, we need to be flexible here. If I put motor also, I need to untighten it and clip it, again retighten it. Instead of doing these things, I will put these first, snap this in place this first. After that I will place the motors also. It shouldn't be interfering anything, it should be blocking anything. I mean putting stepper motor later. I hope I'm not wrong, and if I'm wrong you will see on the manual. They are showing also the orientation of the nuts. So normally they have not putting these, and in some case it's interfering interfering with other pieces, because it says the hole is not centralized. Sometimes this part can interfere another T-nut or something. So just check the manual how they are placing the T-nuts and apply the same. After placing these nuts, to snap these pieces, we need to lose this screw bit to give a room in this. To snap it, place and pull it to yourself. Don't forget the bottom. Now I will make sure these are at the most end, and I will tighten them. Don't forget to tighten these. Remember, they should be moving, so do not over tighten them. We will do the same. This part should look the front of the printer, and the screw heads needs to be up. This is for the left side, but again we need to loosen these screws a bit and snap it. And before putting screw, we will put these pieces. And if you are using Hall effect sensor, there is a removable part for the magnet, you can remove it. For the bigger hole it's M5x16, for the smaller it's M3x12. Take the shorter frame, no hole or no tab, there's one, and place 4 T-nuts on one side and 6 on the opposite of that side. So now we will place this one in place. So again, snap, and we will, with these 3D printed parts, we will also mount this to this piece. We will also mount this piece to this one, so that's why we have extra 2 T-nut in here. 1 T-nut here and 1 T-nut in here. I put the idlers and the AB drivers on the frame. So what you need to do for the idlers, you need to loosen this screw a bit, because this will clip to frame, so you need to space in here. Then after that, after putting your T-nuts on top and bottom, just put the idler to frame. Then after that, tighten the screws. These are M5x10, top and bottom. After that you can also tighten this one, so do not over tighten this one. As you remember, this is just movable part, so it needs to be moved. It's same for the other idler. For the AB drive, you need to loosen these 2 screws which are holding the bearing stacks. Loosen them a bit. Then after that, put the AB part to frame, snap it. Then with M5x10 you can tighten it. For the bottom part, we have end stop pieces. If you are using holes end stop, you can remove this removable piece and put the magnet. And for the bottom, you need to use M5x10 and M3x12. So one of the T-nut will be M5 and the other one should be M3. Then after tightening the bolts, tighten this one. Again, do not over tighten it. The bearing should be move freely. I'm generally trying to be flush on the bottom for these screws. After putting this one and the idlers, we are placing the back frame. This is the frame which do not have any tap or hole, and the shortest one. And basically you need to put four T-nut on the top and 6 T-nut on the bottom. After that, just again place your, actually one correction, do not tighten this one yet. After putting this frame and tighten these screws top and bottom, you can tighten these ones, because again you need a little bit flexibility in here to put this one, just a little bit. So tighten these, after tighten this one and this one and this one after you finished with the back frame. So back to topic, 4 on top and 6 on bottom we said, and you snip on place for the both. And basically there will be a space and it shouldn't be a precise, I eyeballed it. After that, again tighten the top and bottom, and for this also. And after that I tighten these screws. And another thing, we need to connect this frame to frame with these pieces. Remember, there should be offset, and this offset should look back. So with this, in this gap, the belts will run, it will not hit the back panel. So actually this frame is a little bit positioned 2 or 3 millimeters towards the printer. So like I said, you need to put these, and for that it's just normal corner connection for the 2020s, but if you can see, it's supporting the offset, what is seen in here. Lastly, I put also the wire rails. So these are the wire rails, nothing special about it. Again, I just used every other hole to put it. If you can see, the screw, empty space, screw, empty space, and it goes on. And in the last one, I'm also using the next hole, because when you go with the screw hole, this last one remains empty. I don't want to put this empty, so I also put extra one. No harm on it, so that's okay. While you are putting your rails, do not forget to use these guiders. Basically, one of them at the beginning, one of them at the end, and this will center your rails on the frame. After that, tighten the screws on the rail. Now I will put the stepper motors for the AB drives and see you in a bit. We will prepare our AB drive motors. So we need to put a pulley. So we need to also Loctite grab screw, and we need this little guide. So it has A and B part. So for, yeah, as you can guess, so this part will sit here and this part will be like that. So with that, it should be on the right height. So we will use that guide to determine the fixed position. First, I'll take a little bit Loctite. Now I'm positioning the grab screw in the flat part of the rotor, and with the 3D printed guide, I'm adjusting the height. Once they are fine, I'm basically tightening a bit, and that's all. I will also apply the thread locker to the other grab screw, just a bit, should be fine. Now our A motor is ready, so we will do same thing for the B motor. The B motor, we will use the B part, of course. For the B motor, we will put our pulley upside down like this, and with the part we will adjust the height. Let's check it. Yes, A motor is like that, and fine, and the pulley is like that. Don't forget to apply the thread locker on the grab screw. And the B motor is, the pulley is upside down, the position is okay. Now we need to put these two motors in the gantry. So see you in a bit.
AB motors also installed. As you can see, pulley needs to be aligned with the two pulleys, so you can check with that. So for the other one, as you can see also, the tilted part are aligned with the two bearings. And if you see, the cables are looking to middle of the printer for the bolts. Correction from the future. This is the correct way of the routing of the motors cable. This is for the right one, if you are looking in the front, and this is the left one. So if you did it wrong like me, you can easily change it. As you can see, my belts and everything is installed. What you need to do, you just need to unscrew these three screws which are holding the motor, and while unscrewing it, just support your motor in the towards the up. After unscrewing it, while you are supporting the motor, just turn your motor in the correct position, and after that again tighten these three screws to hold the motor, and that was all. Yeah, basically the important part, you have to support your motor on the towards the printed parts. With that you can easily change the rotation of the cable out of your motor. So now we will install the belts. For the belts, before installing it, we need to be sure that they are equal. For that, basically put your belts on the floor and align the teeth side by side like this, and just go to the end, and at the end, if they ended up at the same time with the same teeth number, that's okay, that's what we want. But if it ended up like that, so they are different, just cut the excess, cut the longer one, and they will be equal. So first make them equal, then install it. So I will do the same, and I will see you in a bit. Belting is also done. So here's the tips for you. So first of all, insert belt from the outside and take it from the inside, and leave the excess belts approximately this amount. It's good to have a little bit belt in here for the maintenance purposes. Yeah, I mean, if you need to reassemble it, for example, you can easily put the belt again with this excess. So this can be hidden also with hiding like this. Okay, and put the both of them, and remember our belts are equal. Before we are putting it, we are comparing the teeth side. So for example, in mine, one of them was longer, one teeth, so I removed one teeth from one of them, so right now they are equal. I also leave equal amount of teeth in that side. So then start with the bottom one, take the bottom one. So remember one thing, the belt always turn around either pulley or idler, the bearing stack. Except these two parts, it's not turning any other parts like plastic or something else. If you, for example, we need to turn here, so there should be an idler or pulley. So if we start with the bottom one, so the bottom one is pulley, and going to back side. I think, yeah, it cannot be seen here. If you see, there is a pulley in here, so we are turning from this pulley. It's going inside here and turning again another pulley. So since there is one pulley in here, and the motor's pulley is not same height with the belt, it's just going to other drive. So in the other drive, so again there's a pulley, so I need to turn it. So it's turning this pulley and went to the motor's pulley, and this bottom belt is turning around the pulley, the motor's pulley, and coming back to the idler, and from this idler it's going to front idler. In the front idler there is a bearing stack, it's making the U-turn and coming in here to this pulley. From this pulley, it's going back to tool head. So first, just put a little bit excess. Don't bother yourself with the tension, and just be sure it's secured. It's not coming off from your tool head. Then after that, do same things for the top belt. So top belt, if you follow the right path, so top belt is turning from the pulley and going to idler, making U-turn in the idle bearing stacks and coming back all the way back of the gantry. So in here, again, there's an idler, two idler, and our motor pulley is in the same height. So we make another turn to motor pulley, and it's turned around to motor's pulley and came to this idler, and go to the other side of the other drive. Since there is one bearing, we are making only one 90-degree turn and go to this joint. From this joint, there is a bearing stack underneath in this part, and making 90-degree turn and coming back to tool head. Start from here and follow the path. Basic, for example, you don't need to memorize anything. You should know belt should be turning from the bearing stack or the pulley. So again, for example, from bottom part, if you see the bottom part, there is a pulley in here and there is a bearing stack. So it's the same height with the bearing stack. So that means it should turn to back. Why? Because it's bearing stack, it's not pulley. Pulley has tooth. So for example, for top one, since it's turning with the pulley, the teeth side is matching with the tooth. So it's not going back. It's not using the flat part but the tooth part. So since there's a bearing, it should use the back part, flat part of belt. That means it should go to back. If your next turn is pulley, it should turn in the tooth face. The next step is bearing stack, it should turn on the flat side. With that, also you can determine where you need to go. There is always, except the back, there is always one bearing stack or one pulley at the same height. And on the back also you can determine that if there is a two bearing stack, it needs to go to motor. If there is a one bearing stack, it needs to go next corner. Just like that. After you putting both belts on the tool head, take the empty space of the belt with pulling this one. So if you pull this one to that side, it is a little bit hard, but it's coming. So with that, you can tension your belt. Right now mine is like that, which is fine. So once you're satisfied with the tension of your belt, keep this bottom belt, because we did the fine-tuning in the bottom belt. Keep this belt always like this. So with that, it will not lose its tension. So keep it like that. So while keeping like this one is in that corner, keep this one in that corner, because we want to tension also top belt. So while keeping this one, bottom one is in that direction, pull this one to that direction. Pull this one until these two belts have the equal length. Again, just compare the teeth side. If they are ending in the same time, they are equal. After that, just tighten these 4 screws to secure them. Right now, like I said, I'm happy with the tension, and I also put my front idlers at the most back. With that, I have more room to do fine tuning. And after that, at last, check your gantry racking. So for me, it's not wobbling in the both sides, and I check also in the front, so it's not wobbling, so that should be fine. If your gantry is wobbling after doing the belt tensioning, installing and tensioning, you need to redo the gantry racking steps. After that, it should be fine. But for now, mine seems fine. Since there is a motor also, it's a little bit hard to move, but
Yeah. So I realized I forgot to mention how to direct your gantry, so let's make a quick explaining for that. For that, once you install your XP, the gantry, before you install your belt, you need to do gantry directing. For that, you need to loosen these screws on the XY joints and the bottom ones. You need to also lose these screws, the A which are holding the back frame to A-beam drivers, and don't forget the bottom. After loosening them, just do a little bit back and forth and take your gantry to front and check if there is any wobble in here, if there is any empty space. If there is, just play with the X-beam, make a little, for example, left or right to find the home position while you are referring the front part. And once it is okay and or there is no wobble, just tighten these screws in the XY joints and of course the bottoms also. Then take your gantry to the back, most back, and again same thing, check your corners, there is a wobble or not, there is empty space or not. If there is, take your gantry and push it just a little bit hard to hit your back to find this frame to home position, and with that it should find the home position for the back frame and should be fine. And check again your XY joints, they are space or not, if they are wobbling or not. If they are not wobbling, if they seem fine, and tighten these bolts and don't forget the bottom. After that you can do one last check, which is take your gantry without touching your tool head or your belt, just push your gantry to back, and while you are pushing your X-beam, tool head shouldn't be moving left or right. It should be going straight while it's going forward or back. If it is stable, that's okay, you are fine. And if it is moving as this diagonal movement, then you can check your belt tension and also you can do the gantry directing again. And if you at the end of the process, if you feel some binding in your movement, you can lose these bolts which is mounted to your carriage, lose them a bit and do the same for the right side. Then again move your gantry back and forth couple times to find home position in here. After that tighten your screws. That might help your problem. Again, there is a binding in your rails, you might want to check your rails if all those are not solving your problem. That was all for this one. Thank you for watching and see you on the next one.